And there are 5 of them. And the first one is, they don't want you to brand. They want you to have sales. They want you to clear it out. And you know what? That's not the way to do business. You shouldn't be doing your business going from sale to make your budget happen. All right? It's very, very important. There are 2 types of advertising. There's something called call to action advertising and something called branding. Call to action advertising, by the way, is very expensive because that is when you have a sale. Big tent sale going on this weekend. Now here's what happens. You have to cut your prices so your margins are lower, right? You have to advertise a lot and heavily. Car dealers do this all the time. You see advertisement after advertisement after advertisement because they have to sell all these units by Friday, right? That's call to action advertising. The other thing about call to action advertising is you have no control over what your competition is going to do. You have no control over what the elements are going to do. Let's say you have this big tent sale going on this weekend and you cut everything's 50% off in the big tent. Big furniture sale going on this weekend. Well, all of a sudden this big storm comes through on Friday, and what does that do? It ruins your sale, right? Call to action advertising is only for certain people. Unfortunately, most local businesses think the only way to advertise is with call to action. And that's not true. The way to advertise, if you're a local business, for the most part, and by the way, call to action advertising works. Don't get me wrong on this. It works well, but it's very expensive. If you brand your business, you can split that cost over long periods of time, months, years, even decades, to make the same impact on your bottom line. Okay? So your 2 types of advertising, call to action and branding. We want to talk about branding. That's what we're going to talk about today. Okay? The second thing that they don't want you to know about is consistency. Coca-Cola has been advertising since the 1800s, and you know what? They've advertised every day since. Through 2 world wars, a Great Depression, 15 recessions, and every day Coca-Cola has been advertising. McDonald's has not missed a day of advertising since the 1950s, since Ray Kroc started this thing up decades ago. And you know what? They're 2 of the most successful businesses around. If you plan on being in business in 12 months, and by show of hands I say everybody is, right? Consistency is everything. Branding your business really is kind of like exercise, all right? You have to continue to do it if you want this thing to work, all right? The next is reach. You want to reach as many people as possible. You want as many people to see your advertisement that you can afford. That everyone understands. If I were to ask, and I've been doing this for over 30 years, and if I were to ask everybody, what is your goal in advertising, they're going to say to make money. And I'm going to say, and how do you plan on doing it? And they're going to say, I want to reach as many consumers as I can. So all advertisers understand reach is important, okay? The problem is most of us can't afford to reach a ton of people successfully. We fall into what we call the media mix trap. We try to put a little money in TV, a little in radio, a little in newspaper, a little in billboard, a little in direct mail. All right? And what it ends up happening is it gets very, very diluted. So I want to tell you something today. If you cannot afford to do it all, figure out what you can afford to do and stick with that. And I don't care what it is. I don't care if you do newspaper, or if you do television, or you do radio. Do whatever you think you can afford to do correctly. And to do it correctly, I'm telling you, you're going to have to do this: frequency. You need to reach as many people as you can, a minimum of 3 times every week. Now, this is kind of controversial, and a lot of people will say, well, 2 would be enough. Some people say, you got to have 7. I will tell you 3 is a great number, and it's one that's accepted in virtually all advertising industries. All the mediums will accept that, okay? And to tell you how 3 is a magic number, we have any parents in here? Parents? What about this? Daddy, can I have a cookie? Daddy, can I have a cookie? Daddy, can I have a cookie? Now you can ignore them once, and you might be able to ignore them twice, but by number 3, it's get the hell out of here, go ask your mama, it's too close to supper, do your homework. But at some point, with repetitive speech, Daddy, can I have a cookie? Daddy, can I have a cookie? Daddy, can I have a cookie? Eventually, they will elicit some sort of response from you. Am I correct? It works. I have a grandson, Dante, and he comes to spend weekends with us, and it's very funny because the first thing he does when he wakes up on Saturday morning is he yells, "Papa!" And of course, he expects me to get up and run to find out what it is that he wants or needs. So I told my wife, Kim, I said, you know what? He can scream. I'm going to let him scream all he wants. He can scream all day if that's what he wants. I'm going to stay here and have my coffee. So we sat there, and here he goes. Papa! Papa! And I'm telling you, I lasted about, and I know better, and I lasted about 3 or 4 times before I had to scream back at him, I'm coming, or what do you want? But it works, guys. 3 is huge. Children realize that if you keep asking, you get, ultimately. So frequency is everything. Reach is important, but reach as many people as you can 3 times. If you can't reach them a minimum of 3 times in a 7-day period, then you're doing too much. Okay? Narrow it down. Try to reach as many people as you can in that period. The fact of the matter is, over time, the human brain is going to begin to accept anything it hears 3 times in a 7-night sleep. And there's something called the curve of forgetfulness. This guy right here, Thomas Ebbinghaus, was brilliant when he discovered this. And he discovered that over a course of a few days that you start forgetting things that you were exposed to today. We're exposed to over 7,000 messages every day, and our brain throws these things out. And when I say we're exposed to these, I'm talking about logos that we see when you walk in a grocery store. Every time you see a label on a can, every time you see a TV commercial or hear a radio commercial, you're being exposed to a message that consumers are getting every day. All right? So you really need to try to figure out how to break through all of this clutter. And to do that, you've got to say it over and over and over again. Now, the 5th thing that these big companies don't want you to realize is that the message is everything. All these things we've been talking about today are important, but nothing is as important as the message. Now, I come from a radio background. And I'm telling you, and people say, well, how do you know if you're reaching enough people, and how do you know if the frequency is right? And I say, you know what? If I'm doing a remote, let's say at a Albertsons grocery store, and I say, come on over to Albertsons. We've got 2-liter bottles of Coca-Cola for 99 cents. And I say this 3 or 4 or 5 times a day. Am I going to bring people to Albertsons? Maybe so. Maybe a few people may go, that's a pretty good deal on Coca-Colas. But if I were to say, hey, we're broadcasting live today from Albertsons, and we're giving away $100 bills, no purchase necessary. The first 50 people that get here get a $100 bill. Just come onto our remote van and you got one. How many people are going to show up? Thousands. I'll have people from here to New Orleans lined up because they want a $100 bill. The message was everything, right?